It already happened, and almost nobody saw it. By tomorrow, the map of Hollywood looks unrecognizable. The disturbing part? Every warning was screaming at us for 48 hours. We refused to look. The deal is sealed. The signatures are dry. Behind the velvet ropes of a Manhattan suite, a woman who spent years smiling for the cameras decided that smiling time was over. Lock in. What I am about to walk you through will rewire how you read every move she has made in the last 12 months. Once the pattern clicks, there is no one seeing it. Once you understand the timing, you will see why the most powerful executives in film have gone eerily silent. Now, you know the routine. Smash like, hammer subscribe, stay glued, because we are not running the tabloid version today. We are going underneath the floorboards, pulling up the carpet, walking through every wire, every payment, every backroom call the morning shows will not touch. Let us get into it. Picture this. An ordinary New York night. The film world is doing what it always does. Congratulating itself. Sipping champagne it cannot taste. Recycling the same 6 names since 1998. Town cars lined up. Publicists buzzing. Tribeca is preparing another self-important ceremony to remind the country who the gatekeepers are. And then, the side door of the Four Seasons swings open. A figure in a long coat steps onto the curb. No entourage. No security. No warning. That figure is Rihanna. The second her heel touched pavement, the balance of power inside New York shifted in a direction nobody in that building was ready for. Now listen, Rihanna is not a guest. Not a plus one. Rihanna is not the girlfriend clapping while her man receives a ribbon. Lean in, because this is the sentence the magazines will spend 3 weeks scrubbing from the record. Rihanna is the architect. Rihanna is the silent chairwoman of an empire reaching into Puma, Chanel, LVMH, Vogue, Savage, every Sephora shelf on every continent. She does not appear in public unless a board has moved, a contract signed, a target chosen. She does not show up to support. She shows up to collect. On this night, the bill was decades old. Here is the part the columns are tiptoeing around like the floor is glass. For years, A$AP Rocky has been methodically blacklisted by the establishment. His visual work has been ignored at every festival claiming to champion the new auteur. His music videos, which more than one cinematographer has called short film masterpieces, have been buried under awards lists clogged with the same recycled names. His scripts bounced from desk to desk with vague rejection language. They were never letting him in the room. He was the artist the industry wanted to admire from a distance and never invite to the table. The people running that table believed, with the confidence of inherited power, that nothing would change. They made one mistake. 1. They underestimated the woman watching from the other side. The story already moved. 48 hours ago, the cracks began. A black SUV idled at the Tribeca offices longer than it should have. An assistant tweeted, then deleted, a line about an emergency meeting. A board member was photographed leaving a building she had no reason to be inside. These fragments mean nothing to a casual fan scrolling TikTok. But to anyone who studies how Rihanna operates, they lit up like emergency flares. Here is the rule. When Rihanna goes loud, the negotiations are finished. When she goes quiet, negotiations are about to start. In the last 2 days, she has been the quietest she has been in a year. You see what is happening. You see the dominoes. This is not chaotic. This is not impulsive. This is choreography, executed by a woman who has studied the weak points of this industry while we watched her music videos. Pause. The Tribeca Film Festival is not a film festival in the romantic sense the public imagines. It is a brand. It is a credibility laundering operation disguised as a celebration of cinema. It is a velvet-roped pipeline where sponsors buy prestige, executives buy access, and legacy filmmakers buy another year of relevance. That is not criticism. It is architecture. Once you understand the festival is a credibility marketplace, you understand why what Rihanna just did is so existentially terrifying to the people who run it. She did not crash a party. She walked into a marketplace and rewrote the price tags. If the breadcrumbs from 12 months led to this night, where do the new breadcrumbs lead? Break it down signal by signal. Signal 1. A$AP Rocky on a press circuit. Not a normal one. Not the kind a rapper runs when an album is dropping. This was quieter, slower, more deliberate. Conversations with cinematographers. Sit-downs about lighting, framing, lens choice. Vocabulary nobody in his orbit had reason to use publicly unless something cinematic was in the pipeline. Not promotion. Positioning. A man being framed as a filmmaker months before any ceremony invited him. Signal 2. Rihanna, who never grants serious interviews, suddenly photographed at legacy publications that have been the kingmakers of this festival circuit. No statement. No press release. No explanation. Just the photo. The timing. The location. To a casual scroller, celebrity gossip. To anyone reading the board, A queen visiting the rook before the move is announced. Signal 3. The award itself. Really think about this. The category Rocky was honored in did not exist last season. Not last quarter. Barely last week. A brand new visionary distinction, conjured from air, dropped into the program the moment the most powerful woman on the planet decided her partner belonged on that stage. Awards do not get invented in 72 hours. Categories are not rewritten on a whim. Festivals do not rearrange their programming as goodwill. That award did not appear because the industry remembered to celebrate his genius. It appeared because somebody with terrifying leverage made the alternative unthinkable. Signal 4. The speech. The room stopped breathing. When Rocky walked across that stage, he did not deliver a polite acceptance. He did not thank his team. He did not pretend the moment was about gratitude. He looked into the rows of executives who had spent years closing doors in his face, and he detonated. He spoke of trials. He spoke of tribulations. He hinted at a flood of work he called ghetto sci-fi. Language so specific, so uncommercial, every studio executive in the building reached for a glass of water. Not an acceptance. A message. The man closest to that message, the elder statesman of the entire festival, the founding face of its credibility, did not blink once. Robert De Niro understood the room had been hijacked, and he understood exactly who had done it. Add it up. What does that math look like to you? I know the question forming behind your eyes. Where are the receipts? So let me put my analyst hat on. I have a theory, and I believe it is about to age into something the magazines will be quoting in 6 months. I believe Rihanna has been building this maneuver since the moment Rocky finished his last cinematic project. Not a wild swing. The signs were buried in everything she did this year. The press appearances skipped. The brand events rerouted. The meetings in cities where her businesses have no public footprint. The trips that ended in conference rooms on no one's schedule. Here is the part the PR world does not want to discuss. Her empire is not a celebrity empire. It is corporate. It moves like private equity. It strikes like a hedge fund. Like the most secret of operators in finance, she has been turning cultural influence into structural leverage over institutions that used to laugh at people like her. You think she is a singer, a beauty mogul, a fashion icon. She is all of those things. She is also a quiet deal maker with patience that terrifies older men in boardrooms. Patience plus leverage plus timing is the formula that ends dynasties. Hold on. We have to discuss what nobody on cable news will say out loud. The De Niro situation. The entire film establishment is sitting in an awkward, almost paralyzed posture. Everybody is whispering. Everybody is calling everybody. Asking the same question 3 polite ways. Did she really just do that? Did the woman who built the most powerful personal brand of her generation really walk into the most protected institution in New York and reshape its program around her partner? The longer leadership stays silent, the louder the silence becomes. Silence at this altitude is not neutrality. It is confirmation. Honestly, a single statement from Rihanna right now would not rattle the industry. It would split it open. A single interview would be controlled demolition. And a single full-length feature project from her camp, starring her partner, produced under her empire, brother, that would be the kind of cultural event the trade publications would be unpacking for the next 10 years. Which is why she has not said a public word. She does not speak until the position is unbeatable. When she finally speaks, you do not get a press release. You get a notification at 3 in the morning, and Hollywood is permanently different. Heat. Now the rollout strategy, because this is where the receipts live. Rihanna's organization does not move like traditional Hollywood power. There is no 6-month publicity campaign. No glossy cover reveal 3 weeks before a premiere. No managed exclusive with one pre-selected anchor. No festival announcement built on leaked tidbits. Her operating system is silence, then detonation. Quiet, then thunder. Fenty had no traditional rollout. One morning it existed, and within hours it was outselling brands that spent 40 years building distribution. Savage had no rollout. One morning it existed, and within months it was reshaping an industry. You see the pattern. This is the modern model. The era of TikTok cycles. Audiences deciding if something matters in 9 seconds. The smartest executives know a brutal truth. The longer you publicize, the more time the internet has to prejudge, dismantle, decide it is overhyped before they have tasted it. So you stop publicizing. Drop it cold. Let the work speak. If the work is powerful, the algorithm carries it further than any press tour ever could. Compare that to a certain institution we will not name, Tribeca, which has spent decades insisting on the slow drip, the curated reveal, the dignified press cycle. Compare it to gatekeepers who built empires on the belief that they alone decide who gets the credibility stamp. Then ask yourself one uncomfortable question. What happens when somebody with more cultural leverage than all of them combined walks in and proves the credibility stamp can be taken by force? Mini pause. This next part is what casual viewers underestimate. Return to the moment. The walk through the lobby. The expression on Rihanna's face as she crossed that marble floor. I have studied this woman for over a decade. I screenshot her appearances obsessively, not for fan service, but because I understand how rare her real movements are. The look on her face was not a woman attending an event. It was a woman closing a transaction. Eyes forward. Pace controlled. No glances. No performative warmth. That look is a 4-star general nodding once before the artillery opens fire. That look was her saying, in the most economical language available, the negotiation is over. We have won. The rest is paperwork. Heat. Heat. Speculation. Speculation. Let us walk into the theory nobody is voicing aloud. There is a conversation circulating in the quieter corners of the industry, in private group chats where assistants speak more honestly than executives, and I want to bring it into daylight. Rihanna has not been building toward a single award moment. She has been building toward a takeover. A multi-year acquisition of the cultural infrastructure that has refused to admit artists like her partner. The festival was not the target. The festival was the test run. Think about it. The brand partnerships across Puma and Chanel and Vogue, she has quietly consolidated. The meetings with executives at distribution companies with no obvious connection to her businesses. The hires inside her organization with backgrounds in film financing rather than fashion or beauty. The travel patterns lining up too perfectly with the schedules of independent production houses. Every recent move from her camp has felt like a chapter in a book the public has not been allowed to read. What if the award was not the climax? What if the award was the prologue? That would explain the patience. That would explain the silence. That would explain why a woman with the most leveraged cultural position of her generation has refused to monetize it the way every advisor in America has surely begged her to. Because she is not chasing a moment. She is acquiring an industry. Heat. 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 I am not telling you any of this is confirmed. I am not the analyst in the boardroom getting calls from a deputy. But I have been watching this organization move for years. I know what its fingerprints look like. And every fingerprint on this moment is screaming the same thing. Something enormous is being assembled in plain sight. And here is where it gets unsettling. In the last 48 hours, strange whispers have started traveling through the production world. Distribution executives quietly asking peers what they know. Legal teams billing weekend hours. Producers receiving courtesy calls from offices that never reached out before. Junior agents told to be available on no notice. Documentary editors placed on standby for a project nobody is allowed to name. None of this is public. None of this is confirmed. But this is the background hum that always precedes a structural shift inside an industry. Connect the dots. Now let us talk strategy. I want you to think like an executive for a moment. If you were sitting at the head of an empire the size of Rihanna's, holding a cultural play that could reshape a vertical, how would you release it? You would not announce it. You would not tease it. You would not date it. You would activate the unit. You would put your partner on a stage where the establishment had no choice but to honor him. You would let silent leverage do the talking with sponsors. You would let select journalists glimpse just enough to keep them hungry. You would feed the audience cinematic crumbs. Studio photographs. A single ambiguous caption. A red carpet outfit that, 2 months later, suddenly makes sense. You would let the internet do your marketing for you. And then, when the conversation hit critical mass, you would push the button. That is exactly what we are watching unfold right now. In real time, on a stage most of the public is not sophisticated enough to recognize. But you noticed, because you are here. And because of that, you will be one of the first people to recognize the next move the moment it lands. Quick rehook. People have been speculating about a Rihanna-led entertainment expansion since the start of the year. The chatter started small. A whisper inside a private dinner. A blog post from a writer nobody clicks. A vague tweet from somebody who knew somebody. Honestly, I dismissed most of it. I assumed it was wishful thinking. Then Tribeca happened, and every previous whisper suddenly looked like prophecy. Because Rihanna does not move publicly without certainty. Rihanna does not appear without alignment. Rihanna does not crash an institution unless the structure behind her is engineered to absorb every piece of the fallout. When she moves this loudly, this surgically, we are not waiting on a future event. We are watching the event happen and mistaking it for a celebrity appearance. I am not exaggerating. I am simply telling you what the pattern says, and the pattern is undefeated. I am not the channel that throws reckless predictions for clicks. What I have is observation, pattern recognition, and the weight of every previous Rihanna move stacked behind me. Every one of them whispering the same conclusion. Something massive is being mobilized. Something the gatekeepers are not going to be allowed to stop. You think Rihanna is just glamorous. You think she walked into Tribeca for a date night. You think a woman who runs a multi-billion-dollar architecture of brands accidentally happened to stand next to a handcrafted award that magically appeared overnight. You think we would not pull every thread, every payment trail, every leaked note, every conspicuous absence, and stitch the picture together until the truth could not be denied. They think they were slick. They believe the public would absorb the night as a heartwarming victory for a misunderstood artist. And honestly, in a way, they are slick, because most of the culture is still scrolling past the photographs without realizing they just witnessed the opening movement of a hostile takeover. But not us. Not here. Not today. We saw it. We clocked it. We are ready. Before we close, one final layer, because there is a piece of this puzzle the mainstream will not touch. The ransom. The whisper running through the brand world for the last day and a half. The story, unconfirmed, that during negotiations between Rihanna's representatives and the festival's commercial partners, several of those partners were reportedly informed, in the politest legal language, that relationships with Puma, Chanel, and Vogue would be reconsidered if the award did not happen. That is not gossip. That is structural leverage. That is what happens when the cultural balance has shifted so completely that a single woman can credibly remove 8 figures of sponsorship with one phone call. If that whisper is even partially accurate, this is the most quietly devastating use of brand leverage in modern festival history. That ransom theory also explains the panic. It explains the polite smiles on executives who looked, on camera, like men who had just discovered the floor was a trapdoor. It explains why nobody from the festival has issued anything beyond a sanitized statement. It explains why the trade publications keep pivoting to side stories. They are not pivoting because the main story is small. They are pivoting because the main story is too dangerous. The boundaries have been shattered. The hierarchy has been violated. And the most unsettling part is realizing this might not be a one-time intrusion. This might be the new rulebook. Let me drop one last thing. Observers genuinely believe Rihanna has been operating on a multi-year plan long before any of us were paying attention. The slow pace of her music output, the spacing of her appearances, the avoidance of red carpets that do not serve her objectives, the refusal to play the celebrity validation game, is not retreat. It is preparation. They believe she has been clearing every distraction from the room. She is making certain that when the next chapter arrives, nothing else in the conversation is strong enough to compete. And honestly, the more I study her, the more I believe they might be right. Her organization does not move on the industry's timeline. They do not chase trends. They do not chase quarters. They do not chase headlines. They chase moments. The kind that do not just dominate a news cycle. The kind that shift an industry for a decade. That is a fundamentally different operating system. Once you internalize it, you understand why nothing she does ever feels accidental. While everybody else is arguing on social media, while the gossip blogs recycle the same 5 takes about her relationship, her organization is in the war room, quietly, patiently, methodically building. And the moment they release pressure on the next move, the entire Hollywood power conversation flips overnight. If you made it this far, you are a real one, and I appreciate you. Drop me a comment. Are you a believer? Are you a skeptic? Do you think the Tribeca night was the takeover? Or do you think I am reading too deeply into a woman who just wanted a date night? Either way, I want to hear from you. And if you have not yet, smash subscribe, hit the bell, stay close, because the second the next move drops, I will be the first in your feed breaking it down. Frame by frame, receipt by receipt. The story is not over. The story is just beginning. Heat. One last thing before you click away. Keep your eyes on Rihanna's appearances. Keep your eyes on Rocky's collaborator list. Keep your ear to the ground for festival reshuffles, mysterious acquisitions, distribution deals announced without warning, executives stepping away from 20-year positions, sponsorship contracts redrafted on suspicious timelines, because silence in this empire is the loudest sound in the building. And right now, the silence is absolutely deafening. Something is coming. Stay ready. Look, do one thing for me before the week is finished. Open Rihanna's public feeds. Then open her partners. Then open the festival's channels. Look at the timestamps. Look at how these accounts are suddenly orbiting one another. Look at how the same backstage photographs appear across different accounts within hours. Look at how the captions are mirroring in tone, in cadence, in the cinematic vocabulary they choose. That is not coincidence. That is a coordinated activation pattern, and once you see it, you will never look at this empire the same way again. This is the part of the cycle that plays out right before they detonate. The pre-launch synchronization, the visual continuity, the cross-promotion pretending to be casual but engineered to the minute. Every single time, without exception, and it has already started. The only remaining variable is the date. Let me close with this thought. We have spent years watching one of the most consequential realignments in modern celebrity power. We have seen alliances form and shatter on camera. We have seen friendships dissolve in real time. We have seen careers rewritten in the span of a single news cycle. We have seen one woman, quiet, focused, locked in, turn an entire industry sideways without ever making more than a single carefully timed appearance. And now, just as the world began to assume the story was settling, just as the columns prepared to file her understable elder stateswoman of pop culture, she walks into the most fortified institution in New York and rewrites the program on her way to the after-party. If that does not tell you the next chapter is loading, I do not know what will. Mark this video. Come back the day the news drops. Tell me I called it. Until then, stay ready, stay locked in, and stay tuned. The next move is the loudest one. The countdown has already started. The patterns never lie. The smile told us everything. The silence is the signal.